All right, it's coffee time, and I'm going to throw out a little bit of common sense pod talk. Try to cover a little bit of these phenotypes. I'm no expert, and I don't claim to be an expert, but I've been growing enough unstable hybrids long enough that, I see trends, and I see things that most people probably never see. There's so much misinformation out on the internet these days, and you really have to look at what people are saying. I got a couple mail calls, and a friend of mine, Ben Serdenek, probably saying it wrong, sent me a box of pods yesterday, and also my buddy Sean Stice. And I want to show you some of the pods, and I want to show you what we are calling phenotypes. There's been a bunch of controversy about the C3PO, and I'll explain that later in this video, but right now we're going to just look at some cool pods to begin with. Here's one that was found. Ben actually found this, came directly from Matthew Arthur's garden several years ago. He grew it out, found a strange phenotype that had multicolored pods, gave this out to several people, and it's thrown off all kinds of weird phenotypes. Now, this huge pod, this thing is huge. We'll keep the seeds separate for this one. This came from a different plant, as you can see. Kind of a Maruga-ish like shape. Real big. Huge, actually. And the other plant was throwing off kind of a, we're not sure, daisy cutter Wartrix type looking pheno. Very strange, very cool. These happen to be a little lighter in color, a little more orange red, whereas this big one is red. Anyway, those are cool. Here's a variety that came from Justin White. Calls this one White Hot Lime. I tasted this one last year. The pods were a little different. This year they're a little different again. This is an unstable hybrid. It hasn't been grown long enough to be stabilized. It's probably an unknown cross to begin with. That's the problem that people don't realize, is if you're dealing with unstable hybrids and you're dealing with open pollinated seeds, there's a lot of possibilities that can happen. Now, here's a variety from last year that I also saw. I don't know if this is the next generation. I don't remember if I had seen F3s or F4s before. I think he sent me F4s last year. I'm not positive. This is Pink Gum F4. And again, with some of the controversy going around lately, especially these bubblegum times SRTSL that some of the seed sellers are dumping on everybody that don't have a calyx. Okay, look at this. This is a gum. If you're going to call it a bubble gum, if it doesn't have a calyx, you have to say that it's off pheno. And it's not the desired pheno. This is the desired pheno. And I'm sure there's several phenotypes from this variety, but this one does have a calyx. And what's cool about this particular one is the calyx actually has kind of both colors on it. If you look at some of these, you'll notice that, if you can see it very well, but the calyx actually has the two-tone colors of the pod. Very interesting. Very desirable phenotype. And as if I remember correctly, I tasted these last year, and they were very good tasting. So that's pretty interesting in itself. Another one I'd like to discuss phenotypes. This is Yellow Trash. And this is Yellow Trash. As you can see, my plants grew a little bit more boot-like pheno. They're a little smoother, they're a little darker yellow, and they're very, very hot, and they have absolutely no floral taste. Now, these pods came more accurately as to what the pods that I took the seeds out of. And it just, in my opinion, I would call this the more desired phenotype. As you can see, a couple pods look kind of with tails. This one's kind of blob, kind of has a tail. This one really got goofy, but you know, if you look close, you're seeing some of the same characteristics in these two phenotypes. So, like I said, I'm no expert, but I can tell you that being that yellow trash is also an unstable, unknown hybrid, you're going to get varied results. There is no correct phenotype at this point. This would be what I would call a desired phenotype. Personally, this one looks like a boot, but this one tastes better, and this is probably the one I'll grow next year. Don't really care about the shape. Looking for flavor, looking for heat. Now, here's a little interesting, some gems that he sent me. This is bowed. I know there's a bowed yellow as well, bowed red, Brazil. I actually had seeds for this. I've never had time to grow it. I will taste these, take the seeds out of them, and go from there if I like it. I would assume these are pretty mild. Here's another one, I believe. Originally, this came from Justin White, and oh yeah, it says JW right on there. He's got this listed as Scottish Brains. I don't know, I always called it Scotch Brains. These are real cool pods. They also throw some different shapes. These seem to be fairly accurate. I don't know, my buddy Rick grew some of these and got just some crazy tails, really crazy looking pods. Very interesting. Here's another example of, this is just an unknown. No idea what this is. Pink unknown. And that's what you need to call it. I suspect, to me, this looks like it has some bacatum in it. It looks like sugar rush peach, but that's just purely speculation, and that should never be put in the name. So it's just pink. Pink, question mark. There you go. Now, we're going to get down to some explanation on this one. This is Vader Jigsaw that I grew. I just went out and I just went outside and I picked this off my plant. This is some of the controversy going around of people saying C3PO. First of all, there is no such thing as a C3PO. A C3PO was a stolen caramel colored variant of the Vader Jigsaw. And there's a lot of details surrounding this. I'll explain them to anybody. I'm not going to like get into every last detail, but basically there was a mustard, and this one Ben grew. This is the mustard variant. Still has 3 lobes, kind of has a little funky tail like a Moruga. It's bumpy on the top. This pod's a little smoother than mine. These are kind of bumpy on the top. Anyway, came from the same seeds. Not only that, those 2 varieties came from the same exact pod. And that's the problem with some of this stuff. As soon as you start taking seeds from multiple pods and they're open pollinated, you've got the risk of an additional cross. It's believed that this original Vader was these seeds that I'm growing in my pod came from a cross between a Vader hybrid and a mustard boot. And that's part of the issue. You got people running around the internet trying to tell you what's what with this variety. Let me tell you something. Nobody has these seeds except, I believe, 3 people. That's it. This would be, I let Ben grow this one because I trust him, and this would be the 4th person to even have this. So the fact that I think it was Duffy sold all these basically ill-acquired seeds for a caramel phenotype of this pepper, that's something completely different. Not only that, but since those seeds came from another pod, that may have very well been a completely different cross with one of the same parents and something completely different. Again, speculation. There's no for sure thing about that. And it's getting pretty tiresome to hear these idiots on the internet that have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, this is it. This is Vader Jigsaw. And this is very similar to the pot I ate several years ago. I've been growing this for several years. It grows relatively consistent color, shape, flavor. It's relatively consistent. Again, the mustard pod, a little more Moruga shaped. Both of these pods have 3 lobes, if you look at them. And yes, this is simply a mustard version. The mustards weren't as productive, and I'm not a big fan of mustard. I selected this phenotype. This is the one I've been growing. However, like I said, these came from the exact same seeds, exact same pod. I happened to get, I believe I had 3 plants originally. 2 were chocolate, 1 was mustard. And that's what happened. These came from my seeds. These came from my seeds. Everything here, this all was because my buddy Michael sent me this stuff. Don't believe what you hear on the internet. I can give you every last detail to the last detail about what happened on this variety. So I'm gonna shut off my camera for a minute and turn it back on because I can only record so much video, and I will continue in just a moment. All right, now I'm going to show you another one. These are hurt berries. Very nice looking pods. I was disappointed with the heat level. They're still good pods. Obviously, the shape is very cool. I believe somebody was saying this was something Moruga times Reaper cross or something. I don't know that. I can't verify that. I don't really believe that. I mean, you can say, oh, it's a Reaper. It looks like a Reaper. Well, you know, the Reaper was never stable. So I know that one of the parents of these was Moruga UV, and they look very similar to Moruga UV. So that part I believe. The rest of the story, I have no idea. It's speculation. They're now called Hurtberry. There they are. I got these seeds from James Mallon, and you know, they are cool. Don't get me wrong. They're just not as hot as what they look like. They don't have a bad taste, and they're hot enough, that's for sure. They're just not exceptionally hot like I would have expected. Now, here's a nice little cool pod got from Sean Stice. This is the Jay's Peach Ghost Scorpion crossed with the Reaper. They call it the California Reaper. You've probably all heard of this. I've seen these come in a couple colors already. This one happens to be kind of a light red, light orange type color. Who knows? Again, unstable hybrid. It's going to throw off all kinds of stuff. Everyone's going to have different phenotypes. I guess you just have to pick the one you like the best and try to grow it and hope you get good results. Back to phenotypes. Here we have two different phenotypes of, this is a purple flower bacatum crossed with a, what was it crossed with? Oh, ahi ayoyu. And as you can see, I'm not getting the light very well. There we go. There's two different phenotypes. This one looks like ahi ayoyo. This one is a different phenotype. It came from the same seeds, and it's more elongated. Looks more like your typical kind of a ahi type pepper. Either way, I tasted this one before. This one didn't taste very good. I'll still keep the seeds out of it, and I hope this one tastes a little better. Basically, this was only grown for the purple flowers. Not a big deal. You want purple flowers. And hopefully this one tastes a little better. Doesn't really matter. You grow this for the flower, and the pepper is a bonus. If it doesn't taste good, well, it doesn't taste good. It happens sometimes. He also, oh, I'm dropping stuff. He also sent me this little relative to the tomatillo, and it's a Solanum sucumbrifolium, if that's close, and it's cool. I'm going to taste this. I'm going to take the seeds out of it. Never really grew anything like this. This is related to ground cherries. This is related to tomatillos. Very cool. Never seen one. Don't even know where it comes from. Here we have M.A. Purple 2 Brown. Another Matthew Arthur strain. Don't know much about it. I think I have seeds. Never grew it yet. Haven't had time. That's the way it goes. I have so many hybrids. And this one is Fruximium. What is that? That is a C. frutescens crossed with the C. exium. Very strange looking thing. Starting to get really crazy hybrids now. Don't know much about these varieties. I'll taste it, keep the seeds, and I'm sure if you plant these seeds, you're going to get some crazy shape, something completely different next year. Unstable hybrid. This is Purple Naga Viper, churned chocolate. I think the other ones were red, not positive. Again, unstable hybrids. Potential additional three-way cross. Who knows? Looks cool. If it tastes good and it's hot, I'll keep the seeds and I'll label it accordingly. Here's a weird one. Pink Tiger times Yaki Blue. Pretty cool. There's a few pods there. They all look about the same. Kind of wavy. Very nice. Here we have another Douglas times Reaper cross. Real ugly looking, nasty looking pods. I already tasted one of these from a different plant this year. It was pretty hot. Cool. Definitely something to work with. Again, unstable phenotype, weird shapes. Who knows what you're going to get next. Also open pollinated pods. Therefore, potential crosses do exist. Potential additional crosses. And this is supposed to be a SRTSL. It looks a little weird, but it does, from, I would say from here down it looks correct. I don't know what the super elongation is, but hopefully that's right. I had some seeds from this years ago. I've never been able to get them to germinate. I'd like to work on this one a little more. I like the shape, and I think this would make some great one of the parents for some crosses to get some really, you know, crazy looking shapes. Again, open pollinated pod. Who knows? Hopefully it grows true next year. If not, well, it's an additional cross. And last, a little bit of white bubble gum. This one's not quite ripe. There's a lot of these floating around, different variants. I don't know where this one, I don't know where these seeds come from. These may have come from me even, and that I got from Matthew Arthur. I know James Mallon has sent out some of these. I'm not sure, but you know, they're white, very light yellow, white, bleeding calyx. They look right. Pretty cool. And like I said, I'm going to get back on the most important things here, and I want to take one more look at these phenotypes. As you can see, definitely some variation in this stuff. Don't believe what you hear from people, especially people that have no idea what they're talking about. Let me get a sip of coffee here. Like I said, Vader, see it? Somebody actually renamed this one like they did the C-3PO, and they called it Yoda. So if you want to call it Yoda, whatever, stays with the Star Wars theme. However, technically speaking, this is a mustard Vader. This is the Vader Jigsaw. There's a few shapes for this. In general, they look the same. They're very similar. It's kind of a semi-stable hybrid. It's kind of interesting. What's not stable with this one is the color. And again, yellow trash. Yellow trash is still yellow. Like I said, this would be more of a desired phenotype. I think most people, they want the tails. They think that's cool. The pods I took the seeds out of looked more like this, but they were very floral. They were a low heat floral flavor, not citrusy at all. I haven't tasted this next generation yet, but I know these I did taste that I grew. These pods are much heavier, thicker walled, much hotter, and they have completely lost the floral. They taste like a very citrusy, almost a combination between some type of citrusy 7-pot and a Buchalokia. Again, the seeds for these phenotypes were taken out of multiple pods. So there's not only the phenotype variability, there's also the variability that could come with maybe this particular seed that grew this particular plant had crossed with something in the original grower's garden, and this may be an additional cross. These, I'm pretty sure these grew true. Originally, all these seeds came from one pod, 2 different phenotypes. I've never gotten a caramel phenotype from my seeds, and that's why I don't understand the controversy over someone trying to tell people that they've got the wrong thing or the wrong shape or the wrong whatever. These people are full of bullshit. They do not know what they're talking about. This is the original. This is the Vader Jigsaw, and that's the bottom line. There is nobody that knows any more about this than me, with the exception of the guy I got this from, Michael Christensen. And both of us have been trying to grow a few plants of this every year, see what we get. And it's a very good variety. But like I said, it's never been released to anybody. Nobody has this. Nobody. Michael and I think one of his other friends. And like I said, that would make 4 now that I let Ben grow the Yoda. That would be 4 people that have it. Nobody else has it. That's the way it is. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed a bunch of cool pods and a little coffee and a little common sense. You know, there's a lot of BS going on in the chili world. Don't believe what you hear. A lot of it is just straight up BS. You know, the 3 million Scoville chilies and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't believe it for a second. Maybe someday somebody will prove me wrong, but until that day, I don't believe it. Most of these chilies are probably not even 1 million Scoville, and I know some of them are a lot lower than that. So, hey man, hope you like it hot. Hope you enjoyed it, and there'll be more to come.